Let's build a straight up mage killer build by building General Grievous from Star Wars in Dungeons and Dragons. First things first, we gotta pick a race. And most of the series, he's pretty much just a cyborg, even though he didn't start off that way. So we're gonna choose the race, Warforged. Becoming a Warforged has a lot of cool features, but the only ones that we care about are specialized design, giving us one skill right off the bat, and we're going to choose Insight, so that way you can help fend off any of those Jedi mind tricks a bit better, because Insight's mostly what you're going to use for that. And you get Integrated Protection. So now any armor that you have is integrated directly into your body, and you get a default +1 to your armor class. Then when it comes to a background, you are in outer space, you're flying around, it's basically Spelljammer as far as we're concerned in Dungeons and Dragons. So we're going to grab the background, Wild Spacer. This gives us 2 skill proficiencies. One of them is athletics by default, but we're going to choose Arcana for the other one because you understand how Jedi use the Force. So I feel like that's generally Arcana. The other bonus for becoming a Wild Spacer is that you automatically get the feat Tough, so you have an extra 2 hit points of health per level of this overall build. Then when it comes to the ability scores, we want to focus more on what's good against going up against a mage or a Jedi. And while there are spells that wind up targeting every single ability score when it comes to making a saving throw, the bulk of them are actually targeted towards your dexterity and your wisdom. So that's what we're going to put the majority of our points into. So we're going to have a point spread that looks like this. We get an additional 2 points into Constitution thanks to being a Warforged, and then we get 1 more point to throw wherever we want thanks to being a Warforged, so we're going to throw that into Dexterity. Then when it comes to a starting class, it was kind of a difficult decision, because you do have the ability to essentially split your arms and have 4 arms all swinging lightsabers, which, by the way, if you want a lightsaber, grab a sun sword, but that's not going to work super well for this build because we have a few other things to focus on, but just wanted to call that out because it's literally a light up sword that you can summon the blade part into existence. It's just straight up a lightsaber. But with those 4 arms that usually wield lightsabers, we wanted to make sure we can get 4 attacks, and there's an easy way to do that by becoming a fighter. But we don't want to go with a fighter because that's not as good of a mage killer build. So we're going to go with a ranger. When you become a ranger, you get proficiency in saving throws with strength and dexterity, and you get access to all weapons as well as light and medium armor. On top of that, you get to choose 3 skills. So we're going to grab perception, investigation, and survival. Then at first level of ranger, you get to choose a favored enemy. You can take the alternative favored foe, allowing you to essentially be able to cast Hunter's Mark, but it's still pretty darn similar to just using Hunter's Marks. And General Grievous really hates Jedi. So favored enemy feels like a better fit for the character. This allows you to choose a particular type of species or race or whatever, and you can have a particularly huge hatred for them. So make sure you hate humanoids because that's the majority of what Jedis are, and probably hate some goblins too because that's probably as close as you're going to get to Yoda, even though I feel like some people are going to be pretty pissed about that idea. Having these favored enemies allows you to recall better information about them and track them better. Overall, you're just hunting Jedi a little better. Then at first level of Ranger, you also get Natural Explorer, but we're not going to use Natural Explorer. We're going to take the optional feature that replaces it, because Natural Explorer is all about actual natural environments and using them to your advantage. But you're in outer space most of the time. It's basically a Spelljammer campaign. So instead, we're going to use Deft Explorer. This will most notably double our proficiency bonus with 1 skill. And like I said, we want to protect our mind as much as possible. So we're going to double our proficiency bonus with Insight. Then at second level of Ranger, you get a fighting style. And you're very often wielding at least 2 weapons, so we're going to take 2 weapon fighting. This allows you to add your ability score modifier to the damage of your offhand attack. Now you can attack twice, but we still need to get up to 4 times. Also at second level of Ranger, you get some spell casting. I'll fully load up the character sheet with all the spells, but we're going to focus more on our actual combat ability when it comes to this video. So we're going to take Hunter's Mark to boost our damage whenever we're attacking people with any of those attacks with any of our 4 arms, and we're going to take Zephyr Strike, so you can just dash forward and slash through people very quickly. Then at third level of Ranger, we get the optional feature Primal Awareness, giving us a few more ranger spells if we need them. Many of them can help you track down some Jedi if you use them properly. Also at third level of Ranger, you get to choose a Ranger Conclave, otherwise known as a subclass. And this is where we really get to start focusing on being a mage killer / Jedi hunter by grabbing the subclass Monster Slayer. This gives you 2 features right when you take the subclass, the first one being Hunter's Sense. So now you can sense the weaknesses and vulnerabilities of the Jedi that you're hunting. Additionally, finally, you get the feature Slayer's Prey. So as a bonus action, you designate one creature and you get to deal some additional damage to it once per turn. The first time you hit it on each turn, you can deal an extra 1d6 of damage. You can only target one creature at a time with this, but you can always just change the target whenever you need to. Then at 4th level of Ranger, you get an ability score improvement, so we're going to go ahead and boost up our dexterity by 2 points. Then at 5th level of Ranger, you get extra attack, so now you can attack twice as your action and once as your bonus action with your offhanded weapon. We're getting a little closer to those 4 attacks while not having to rely on being a fighter, but we're not there yet. Also at 5th level of Ranger, you get access to 2nd level spells, and if you want basic short swords, which we're gonna have to rely on because we're going mostly with a dexterity build here, to become essentially lightsabers, we need to enchant them in some way. So we're gonna take the spell Magic Weapon, allowing us to add a +1 bonus to our weapon for 1 hour, and we can upcast this later as long as we have at least a 4th level spell slot and turn it into a +2. Then the other spell I would grab, especially since we're focusing on being essentially a mage killer, is the spell Silence. So then all of a sudden, the Jedi that you're fighting can't use any verbal components. Then at 6th level of Ranger, you get another feature from your Deft Explorer feature. Your walking speed is increased by 5 feet, and you get a swimming and climbing speed equal to your walking speed. Then at 7th level of Ranger, you get another feature from being a monster slayer, called Supernatural Defense. So if you have to escape any grapple from your Slayer's Prey target, or more importantly, if you have to make a saving throw, you can now add a d6 to that save or resisting grapple check. And adding a d6 to your save is a pretty big boost, especially if you're going up against Jedi that are trying to affect your mind. Then at 8th level of Ranger, you get another ability score improvement. So let's go ahead and max out our dexterity. But you also get the feature Land Stride. So now a lot of difficult terrain, especially if it's from plants, is basically just going to cost you no extra movement. Not to mention you have advantage on saving throws against plants when it comes to things like Entangle. Then at 9th level of Ranger, you get access to 3rd level spells. The only one I would worry about is Protection from Energy, especially if you happen to go up against a Sith that wanted to turn on you and do some more like Force Lightning attack against you. So Protection from Energy might help in that situation. Then at 10th level of Ranger, you get another feature from your Deft Explorer feature called Tireless, allowing you to use an action to restore some hit points equal to your wisdom modifier plus an extra 1d8. Additionally, if you have a level of exhaustion, you can reduce it by 1 on a short rest instead of waiting for a long rest. Also at 10th level, we're going to take the optional feature Nature's Veil. So as a bonus action, you can magically become invisible. It only lasts until the start of your next turn, but we can think of this as some sort of gadget that you use to help you out, just to get some advantage on your next attacks while not being able to be targeted by your enemies. Then at 11th level of Ranger, you get another feature from being a monster slayer, and it's called Magic User's Nemesis. You might as well call it the Force User's Nemesis at this point. So when you see a creature casting a spell or trying to teleport within 60 feet of you, you can use your reaction to magically foil it. The creature has to make a wisdom saving throw against your spell save DC. And if they fail, the teleport or spell fails and any resource they used for it immediately just gets wasted. But you can only use this feature once per short or long rest. So we need another way to foil those damn Jedi's Force powers in some way. So at 12th level, we get an ability score improvement. So we're going to take the feat Mage Slayer. And this is how we get our 4th attack. Because when you take the feat Mage Slayer, if there's somebody within 5 feet of you that tries to cast a spell, you can use your reaction to attack them. And it doesn't matter the type of spell. You just immediately get to slash at them. So that means you get 2 attacks as your action, 1 as your bonus action, and then when they try to do any force nonsense against you, you immediately get to slash at them 1 more time in that round, meaning that you finally get those 4 attacks. On top of that, any attacks that you make against any Jedi or Mage is immediately going to force them to make any concentration checks at disadvantage. And then finally, if you have to make any sort of saving throw against a creature within 5 feet of you, you have advantage on that save, which really works well with all of the other parts of this build, considering you already get to add a d6. Then at 13th level of Ranger, you get access to 4th level spells. So to make sure no Jedi is going to get you under some sort of hold person or hold monster or try to paralyze you in any way, we're going to take the spell Freedom of quick movement. It makes you immune to any sort of slowing effects, but also any paralyzing effects. Then at 14th level, you can hide as a bonus action with the feature Vanish, and at 15th level, you get another feature from being a monster slayer, and it's called Slayer's Counter. Now, this is going to sound semi-redundant from your Mage Slayer feat, but trust me, it actually adds a bit. Slayer's Counter makes it so that way when you have to make a saving throw against somebody that's under the effect of your Slayer's prey, you can use your reaction to make one weapon attack against them. You get to make the attack immediately before the saving throw, and if the attack hits, you automatically save on that saving throw, on top of actually hitting them as well. Now, the reason Mage Slayer still works in this situation is that not everything is going to require a saving throw. If they want to do a booming blade against you, which is a basic cantrip that a Jedi might use all the time, you can still use your Mage Slayer feat against that, getting one more attack as your reaction much more consistently than just because of this Slayer's Counter. Then at 16th level of Ranger, you get another ability score improvement, so we're going to go ahead and boost up our Wisdom by 2 more points because it helps all of our Ranger stuff and a lot of saving throws you're going to have to worry about. Also at 17th level, you get access to 5th level spells, which is the highest level spells that Rangers get access to. So we're going to focus on slashing all around with those 4 arms and grab the spell Steel Wind Strike, allowing you to slash everywhere around you, dealing force damage to anybody that's too close with those 4 arms that you're swinging all the swords around. Then at 18th level of Ranger, you get Feral Senses, making it so you can basically see invisible creatures and they can't really hide from you anymore. And then at 19th level of Ranger, you get another ability score improvement, so we're just going to go ahead and boost up our Wisdom one more time. And finally, at 20th level of Ranger, you get Foe Slayer. So once on each of your turns, you can add your Wisdom modifier to either the attack or damage roll of one of your attacks. You have to call out which roll it's for before you do anything, but it's still a nice little boost to damage if you're focusing more on the damage side, so you can hurt those pesky Jedi a little more. Now, this build has been requested a ton of times, especially by my god tier level patron GameStake. He's been wanting this for quite a while, and it seemed like the appropriate time to do it if you look at when this video was posted. So I'm hoping that this build did General Grievous justice. Let me know what you think about this build, or if there's anything you do differently. If you like D&D related content, or if you just want to support this channel, make sure to hit subscribe because it's a huge help. And apparently, those that subscribe roll more nat 20s in their D&D sessions. And if you want access to the character sheet for this build or any of my other builds, feel free to check out my Patreon, where you get access to whatever the heck I can think of, as well as all the character sheets for all of my builds, which definitely does a huge amount to support this channel. So a special thank you to all of my patrons, especially those scrolling by, and some especially awesome patrons: Dark of Skies, Barrow Gruel, Zach, Felix Ulick, Dennis Bumgardner, Barrelisk, Crembro, Natron 209, Kevin Shirley, Zephyros, That Funny Man 57, Joshua Maynard, CGC 2014, Lisa Martinez, Panda Milkshake, Ted Z, Andrew Nobles, Karkat Kitsune, Deckard Joint, Z13, Viral Nerevar, Daniel Galvin, and the Dino 21. Then there's the Dungeon Master level patrons that I actually play D&D with: T Brownie, Julia B. De Oliveira, Daniel Saffler, Conman ZX, Cyberciety, Zalvador, and Kilo Kilo. Then there's the one, the only GameStake. He helps me an insane amount, and he is my god tier level patron. So an extra special shout out to him, and I'm happy I finally got to give him General Grievous. If you made it all the way to the end of this video, let me know by hitting that like button, and I'll be here hoping to roll at least 3 nat 20s in your next D&D session, especially if you want to go out and hunt some despicable Jedi and be an absolutely awesome mage killer like General Grievous in Dungeons and Dragons.